Day Trading Visual Basics has three powers within the system: the indicator power, the formula power, and the procedures power. To effectively describe those, an example needs to be given, and that might be along these lines. Take 10 opportunities that you have, and just generically, those 10 opportunities would produce, you're looking for a buy long situation, so you're looking for a nice green candle. 2 out of the 10 would have nice green candles. 5 or 6 might have smaller or medium-sized candles, and 2 or 3 might have a red candle, small red candle. That ratio, that high probability ratio, is 20%. Only 2 out of 10 have occurred or occur with a nice green candle at the end of the day. Now, when you have indicator lines, in this case we have 22 MFR, or 22 market force recognition indicators. These are the heart of the system. This is the power of the system, if you will, because without the indicators, the patterns, the conditions, the signals would not be there, and obviously the procedures power would not be effective without those indicators and patterns, conditions, and signals. The system has over 20 pattern types up and 20 pattern types down. Or in other words, there's an indicator arrangement that shows itself through the indicators that we have, and we give that pattern a name. There's over 20, as I said, going up and 20 going down. Those are patterns. Now, the conditions are also indicators, and signals are also indicators, but the conditions, like for example, those 2 green candles that we talked about, the conditions of those candles are what we're looking for, because we're looking for, obviously, for opportunities that will end up with nice green candles. We discovered that those patterns that we have picked, we can generate high probability situations if we select the proper conditions associated with each specific pattern. And so the formula power, if you will, is a 3-step process of locating the pattern, verifying the conditions, and waiting for the signal to occur that identifies the point in time when you enter the position or exit the position. And so the patterns, conditions, and signals are what make that 3-step process, is what makes up the system in itself. The indicators, there are 40 total indicators built. The master term trend line is on the candle chart. There are 4 upper and lower band lines on the master platform chart. These are there are 3 Bollinger type bands, and then the wide gray bands is a channel type band that we created. And along with the master long-term trend line that was created, and by the way, that was created from an exponential average line. But in any case, those 9 lines on the candle chart are the first 9 lines that we have within the system, but they're identification lines. They don't identify necessarily. How do I say this? They don't identify quick market force pressure changes or the cycle tops and cycle bottoms that we're looking for in a particular stock. Another group of lines that we created were the 7 short-term trend lines. These come in 3 groups. There's the swing chart red and green line, the power chart orange and green line, and the trend chart, the trend trio, pink, yellow, pink, blue. The trend trio moves faster than the other 2 groups. We tried to create one short-term trend line, but it just would not effectively, we could not effectively create one without eliminating some other beneficial aspects of being able to identify certain trend movements. So we kept 3 different groups of lines. We call them the 7 short-term trend lines, and they tell us about the short-term trend that day traders desire, need, want to have, however you want to look at it. The short-term trend lines, although they are very effective in identifying the short-term trend, they are not the market force recognition change lines. To say that more effectively, what I mean is that when a stock, a high cycle or a low cycle, when it reaches the top and it starts going down, it's not the short-term trend lines that tell you that, it's the market force recognition lines that tell you that. And so they're very fast. There are numerous lines that are leading indicator lines. There are 5 price barometer lines. That would be the zip pink, the swing Zion, and the 3 price lines, red, green, and blue. They follow the price right to a T, and they're from that perspective are very important. And once you get to using the system, you understand why. I probably, since 2007, when I started building sensitive indicators, I built way over 1,000. I'm probably going to say 12 to 1,400 indicators were built. We kept only 22 out of all of those indicators. And keep in mind there were different types of indicators, so that they weren't all the market force type that we were dealing with. But even when we had 50 or 60 of those and we were whittling them down to the 22 that we ended up with, we just had certain things that we wanted to be able to see and identify with. The Visual Basics system is a system of reversal recognition. Gaps are obviously an example of a fast or powerful cycle change. And we were able to identify strength in market movements, and this is primarily accomplished through indicator line length. And although I don't necessarily want to get into strength of market movements in this video, you need to recognize that those strengths are very important. Simple example is the bottom of a cycle, a BOC pattern. That's a V-shaped pattern with the left leg and a right leg, or however you want to look at it. But there's a big difference. The right leg is going to be either lower or higher than the left leg. And so when you have a BOC higher pattern, in other words, the right leg is higher than the left leg, there is more power in the market or for that stock at that particular point in time. And there obviously every cycle turnaround does not have real powerful movements. But that's exactly the point that we're getting at. We want to capture, we want to find and locate those movements that are taking place, that have strength, that are going to be volatile, that we can enter positions on and capture strong price movements. So the importance of strength within a market movement is very important, is very critical to capturing the stock that's going to be more volatile. The day trading visual basics system will find gaps before the gap occurs. There are many people out there that say they trade gaps, and basically what they do is they wait for the open, they find a gap, and then they pick that gap 30 seconds after the open, and they say, hey, this one is gapped, let's trade it. And they do so because it's going to be, or anticipated that it's going to be volatile. And that's very logical, and that's an excellent way to do things. But honestly, we don't know of anybody out there that is finding gaps before the gap, except for day trading visual basics. We have three patterns that get into, that locate those gaps. And although I don't, this video is not for gaps, I did want you to identify that simply because this process is about strength. These formula, the formula power is the critical one that identifies and deals with the strength of a movement. We discovered that a fairly significant percentage of stocks will immediately be recognized on the very first day of the turnaround, and that will vary day to day. It could be a real small percentage, or it could be 20-30% have strength in them that particular day. Obviously, the system finds movements, and we gear in on the 10 or the 20% of those stocks with those movements on that particular day. You cannot find, every stock, you don't know, the system is not going to tell you about every stock on every single day. That's not the design of the system. The system is designed to find those stocks that are strong and that will be nice uptrends or nice one-day movements or whatever the case is. Think about our situation, or my situation. At that particular point in time, in 2007, when I made my very first trade, I thought that I was going to create a system. My plan was to trade and to find a system that worked, because I knew from the very first trade that I made, even though I thought that price was going to go up, I had built no indicators at all. I had nothing to establish what or why that system, why that price might go up in that stock. But I thought it was going to go up. And as I recall, I think it went up for a little bit and then it went down. Could have been down at the end of the day, I'm not sure. But it definitely wasn't what I thought was going to happen. I do remember that. Now, when you have the indicators, I built probably 12 to 1400 indicators. And in doing that, even though we only ended up with 22, many years were spent analyzing and testing and retesting and verifying and determining what would work most effectively. When we got to those 50 or 60 that were left over, we were still whittling on before we got down to the 22. There was just key things that we saw in these 22 that weren't there in others. And that, when I created my first indicator, I thought, I've got a better system. When I created 2 weeks later, when I had 3 or 5 more indicators, I thought I had a better system. But I did not have a system. I had a group of sensitive indicators. And that went on for months or years. And then at some point in time, I discovered patterns, or in other words, the way the sensitive indicators were set up, it created a movement in a specific price direction based on that pattern, a fairly high number of times each time that it appeared. A pink-green top is an example. That's zip green at 100 and zip pink right under it. And zip pink tracks the price, zip green tracks the trades or the buyers in and out of the market. And they work very effectively together. But again, until the patterns showed up and until we could see the combination of signals with them, we didn't recognize that a specific formula could be achieved with patterns, conditions, and signals. The pattern is the indicator arrangement that we identify with, and those are listed in those, pattern types up and pattern types down indexes that I've told you about. And we recognized that the conditions the process, I should say, was to identify the pattern, to verify the condition, and to wait for the signal in order to enter or exit the trade. And so with that in mind, we then had a formula. I mean, we were excited about this thing. I mean, we now had a system that we didn't, that we thought we had a system before, but we did not have. And so it was fantastic. We were lit up. And about that same time, we then identified with the fact that that we had the procedure's power. And by this I mean, let me back up and say that the procedure's power is something that we absolutely wanted to incorporate into the system from day one. And this was when I just wanted the system for myself, not at a point when I decided I might share it with others. But and that procedure was, you're taking those 10 examples that you have, and maybe you whittle it down to 3, and you take those 3 and then you start analyzing where are the 7 short-term trend lines. Are power green and orange going down and red, swing red and green going down, but the trio is going up? Well, that's a good indication of an uptrend start, because the trio has started going up, and we know it's faster, the lines move faster or change directions faster than the other 2 groups. So it became a condition, I shouldn't say became, it was a primary condition that we could identify market changes that were going to take place through the indicator lines in some way, shape, or form. We had absolutely no idea how this was going to be accomplished. I didn't understand how the thing was going to end up. It was just an idea. It was a principle behind what the system was in need of in order to be an effective system for me. Because I was a beginner. I've mentioned it many times that I made my first trade in 2007, and we're proud of this fact. We've got a system that's built and designed for beginners. It's basic, it's real simple in its methods and procedures to pick out excellent opportunities. If you haven't realized it already, when we take these patterns and we pick 2 out of the 10 or whatever number that is through, and we're basically taking conditions, and those conditions are, the very first condition that we look at is the 7 short-term trend lines, but there are many other conditions many other indicator lines, and in location, if they're under or over 0, or if they're going up or down. We look at those lines that are leading indicators. We look at those lines that are price barometers. We track the Zip Green and Zip Zion, which are your trades, your number of trades taking place in and out of the stock at that particular point in time. Zip Zion is the grandfather to Zip Green. It takes a lot of power to put Zip Zion at 0 or Zip Zion at 100. When Zip Green is at 0, there are a lot of people leaving the market. When Zip Zion is at 0, there are a lot more people leaving the market. And that's what Zip Green and Zip Zion tell you. And so now this power that we have in this formula that has been created through the patterns and verifying the conditions with the signals gave us the high probability trades that we trade today. This is what I was trying to convey to you, that we only trade high probability opportunities. That is powerful. You pick a trade out, and the system that you're using right now, does every single choice that you have, is that a high probability choice? As long as you buy a pattern and you try to verify it in the best possible way that you can, and as you understand more about what the normal good conditions are for a specific pattern, you then begin to recognize that when it's a good opportunity. And then with the signals, you can identify when is the best time to enter the trade. And then, of course, if you're a day trader or a swing trader, when to get out. And you look at the signal to identify that exit point. It's a fantastic system. Without the indicators that we ended up with, the sensitive indicators that we picked, we would not have identified the patterns and the conditions or the signals, and we wouldn't have the formula. The procedures power is obviously there with everybody, but it's something that's it's a key element to the system that we absolutely mandated from day one. You have to be able to look at some type of method. For us, it's sensitive indicator lines. You have to be able to look at the sensitive indicator lines and see what the market is going to do. That is the procedure's power. And the vast majority of systems that we've looked at can't even tell the strength of a market move, much less identify when gaps are going to take place before the gap occurs. We don't know of anybody out there that has a system like this. And that's the most important aspect of your trading. It's not the trade that you pick. It's the system that you use to pick the trade. Because if we both sat down and we were given 20 minutes to find an opportunity to buy, it doesn't make any difference which one I find. I'm going to have a high probability trade. I don't know what you're going to have with your system. And that's the exciting part about this thing. The only thing that we trade are trades using are trades that have high probability. And now think of what high probability means. In general, normal terms, high probability might mean 70 or 75%, maybe even 80% of the time. When we take those patterns and then we verify the good conditions in the patterns, you're basically going to find the best condition that you see in those patterns. Remember, bad conditions, poor conditions, and good conditions are nothing more than a reflection of bad, poor, and good market forces for that specific pattern in that stock at that point in time. That's all it is. But it's powerful information. And that's what makes this system so powerful. People look at this system, and I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that spend 5 minutes here and they're gone off to something else, and they never took the time to look at what the system is about. It is absolutely amazing. We cannot name the different market forces that are in the market at a particular point in time. But we have built the 7 short-term trend lines, and we have built the 22 market force recognition indicator lines. And with those lines, we can tell you vast amounts of information about where that price is going at that particular point in time. People talk about, with a particular candle pattern. I mean, candle patterns have been around for, since probably the week after the market started. But sensitive indicators show things that candles cannot show. So we're excited about it. That's in essence what the 3 powers of the system is about. We encourage you to look at more videos. We encourage you to understand what you've got here with Day Trading Visual Basics. It is a system like no other. It's a system. We think it's the best system on the planet by far. Our goal, our slogan from the beginning has been to help you become a knowledgeable, independent, confident day trader. And with the indicators and the formulas that we use and the procedures that we identify with and help you train you into identifying how to use them, we are absolutely positive it's the best. It's just a matter of incorporating and learning the system. And keep in mind, the whole system is built on the TradeStation platform. We did it because TradeStation, we feel, is the best on the planet. And so there's so much there. There's so many things to do, but so many, how do I say this? There's a lot of choices to make, and people get confused sometimes with too many choices. And one of our primary goals of this system was to keep it simple, to keep it very simple. And with that in mind, then having the ability for any beginner to learn what this system is about. The website is free. You can watch videos on it 24 hours a day, and I really encourage you to watch a lot of them before you get started with your if you make a decision to join us as a member. It's a powerful, powerful system, and the more you analyze it, the more you will begin to see what I'm talking about. So have fun trading. I say that a lot, but it really is important. If you're not having fun, it becomes something that you might not like. I knew right out of high school that I did not want to work in a building. I really enjoyed being outside, and as a result, I spent 40 years in the real estate sales, and two of those decades were in developing real estate. And so the independence of having that ability to motivate yourself and get the job done, so to speak, has always intrigued me. But the key thing is I've had fun doing it, and this is fun. When you have the confidence to know where that price is likely to go. And again, you're not going to know where every single stock is going to be going every single day. That's not the idea. We pick the strength of movements. We identify patterns. We verify conditions in those patterns. And then the probability is 95, 97. 98% of the time, they're going to go in the direction that we choose. And so it's amazing. I can't overemphasize it simply because of all of the other stuff that's out there. Ours is a fantastic system. I'll see you on the next video.